Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 3 of the gingerbread ornament tutorial. This is the gingerbread ornament that we are making. It is so cute with all the little gingerbread men and the candies all over the place. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. And today we're going to be making the unit called Yummy Tummy. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have those 2 videos listed down below in the description. That way when you finish this one, you can go back and watch those. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we'll be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have chalk white, opaque chartreuse, silver lined green, matte metallic bronze gold iris, opaque black, and dyed silver lined bright fuchsia. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to call this white, light green, green, brown, black, and pink. We'll also need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire thread in the color Crystal, and this is a 4-pound thread. You could also use a 6-pound thread if that's what you prefer. And then I like to use a size 10 beading needle, but a size 11 or a size 12 would also work. For implements, I like to use my long nose pliers to hold on to my thread at the end of the video, and then I cut my thread with scissors. And then in the beginning, I'm going to show you how to end the tail using the fire method. So we just need to thread our needle with 3 feet of thread, and then we can get started. So I've threaded my needle and now I'm ready to pick up my first 3 beads. Let's pick up 2 black and 1 brown bead. Then we'll take these 3 beads and we'll pull them down to the bottom of the thread, leaving about a 6-inch tail. Now let's tie a square knot. So cross over on top and pull the tail through, and then cross over on top again and pull the tail through. So now you have 2 loops. Let's put our 2 fingers in the lower loop, the one that has the beads in it, and then we'll tug on the tail thread and the long thread until that top loop turns into a knot. Now, I'm not going to touch the tip of the tail to the flame, but I'm going to get it super close so it melts the tip. And it turns the tip into this little teeny knot or bead. So keeping my fingers in the loop, we're going to be tugging on the long thread while twisting the loop until that knot at the end of the tail meets the long thread. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and I'm going to pull that knot all the way down to the beads. Now I'm going to, if you'll notice, that knot is right in between these 2 beads. So I'm going to tug the knot over so that it looks like the knot is coming out of the brown bead. And it also looks like the thread is coming out of the brown bead. So that completes row number 1. Let's start row number 2 by picking up 2 brown beads. And since we're coming out of the brown bead, we're going to sew through the black bead, the one that we're not coming out of. And then I'm going to try to get those beads to sit right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up 2 black beads, and we're coming out of this bead. Let's sew through the next bead. And I'm once again trying to get those beads to sit right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up 2 brown beads, and we're coming out of this black bead. We're going to sew through the brown bead and its buddy that's right below it. So when we sew through 2 beads, that means that we are putting our thread in position to start the next row, and that is called stepping up. So now let's start row number 3 by picking up 1 green and 1 brown bead. The green is the dark green. When I say green, it means that dark green, because the lighter green is much lighter. So we're just going to call this one green, but the light green we'll call light green. Alrighty, so now let's pick up 1 black. Now we're coming out of this second bead, and you'll notice the third bead is kind of set inward or downward. We're going to call that the down bead. We're going to skip the down bead, and we're going to sew through the up bead, the one that's poking up. Now let's pick up 2 black beads and sew through the next bead. Now let's pick up 1 black, and once again we're going to skip that down bead. We're going to sew through the one that's poking up, sewing through our up bead. Now let's pick up 1 brown and 1 green and sew through the next bead. And now we'll pick up 1 brown bead. This is the last bead in this row. So we're going to skip the down bead, and we're going to sew through the up bead as well as its buddy. So sewing through those last 2 beads. And now we are ready to start row number 4. Let's start by picking up 2 brown beads and sew through the next. Then 1 brown and sew through the up. 1 black and sew through the up. 2 brown beads and sew through the next. 1 black and sew through the up. 1 brown and sew through the up. 2 brown beads and sew through the next. 1 green and sew through the up, and 1 green, and then we will sew through the up bead and its buddy, sewing through those last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 5. Let's start by picking up 2 brown beads then 1 brown 1 brown, 1 brown, 2 black beads, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 2 brown beads, 1 green, 1 green, 1 green, and sewing through those last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 2 brown beads, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 2 black beads, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 2 brown, 1 brown, 1 green, 1 green, and 1 brown. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 brown beads, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 2 brown beads, 1 brown, 1 green, 1 brown, 1 green, and 1 brown. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 8. Let's start with 2 white beads this time. One brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 black, 2 brown beads, 1 black, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 2 white beads, 1 light green, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 light green. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 9. Let's start by adding 2 brown beads, 1 brown, 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 2 brown beads, 1 brown, 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 2 brown beads, 1 light green, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, and 1 light green. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 10. Let's start with 1 light green and 1 brown. One white, 1 brown, 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 2 light green, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 brown, oops, pulled it right out of my own hand. 1 brown, 1 white, 1 brown and 1 light green, 1 light green, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 white, 1 white, 1 brown, 1 brown, and 1 light green. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 11. Let's start by picking up 2 light green, 1 brown, 1 white, 1 brown, 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 2 light green, 1 brown, 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 1 white, 1 brown, 2 light green, 1 light green, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 light green. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 12. Let's start by picking up 2 light green, 1 brown, 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 1 light green, 2 light green, 1 light green, 1 brown, 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 2 light green, 1 light green, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 white, 1 brown, 1 brown, 1 white, 1 brown, 1 brown, and 1 light green. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we have completed our 12 rows in our triangle. So if this is the first triangle that you've ever done with me, you'll see that I add connecting beads to some of the sides on each triangle. Each triangle is different, and this particular one is not going to have any connecting beads on this side, but it is going to have connecting beads on this side, and it's not going to have any connecting beads on the top. We also cap the corners with 1 bead, so let's add 1 pink bead on this corner. And then what I like to do, now that it's turned into a little point, is if you notice, you might have a little dent in your triangle like I do, where I've been holding it with my thumb. So what I like to do is just turn over my triangle, and then we are going to, without adding any more beads, we're going to just sew along this quadrant line right here until we get our thread or our needle up to this top bead right here. So not picking up any more beads, let's add, or let's sew up 1 bead at a time. And you don't have to sew through the same beads that I am, as long as you are hiding your thread by sewing up 1 bead per row. That would work too, as long as you reach our goal, which is right there. Okay. So, and while I'm following my quadrant line like I always do, I like to ask the question of the day. And the question of the day is, okay, so we are doing a gingerbread man right here. This is Mr. G's tummy, right? His yummy tummy. So, tell me, when have you ever done a gingerbread man or made a gingerbread man and then actually decorated him with the jelly beans and the frosting and all of that? I want to know. Put it down in the comments if you've ever done that. I personally have never. We've never made gingerbread man, and even if we did, I'm not sure I would do all of that. But maybe, I mean, it depends on the situation, right? Like maybe if we were having a baking party, or maybe if we were doing like building the gingerbread houses or something like that, and we had all the candies and all the extras, the frosting and sprinkles and everything, maybe I would. But yeah, I think maybe my gingerbread cookies would be eaten before they even got frosted. My family has a sweet tooth, that's for sure. Although we don't do gingerbread very often or ever, really. But yeah, I think that they'd be gobbled up really quick when they're warm, fresh out of the oven. Tell me in the comments if your family is the same or what you like to do when it comes to baking for Christmas. Alrighty, we are now up at the top corner again, or actually this is the bottom corner, but we're going to cap it off by adding one pink bead, and it turns that corner into a little point. Now we're going to add connection beads up this side. Let's start with one light green, one brown, one brown, one brown, one brown, one brown, one light green, one brown, one white, one brown, and one light green. Now we are up at our third and final corner. So let's add one pink bead to cap it off. And now, so that we can secure our beads that we just added, let's just sew up 6 beads. I always follow that quadrant line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now we're going to do a zigzag. So we're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it, and then sew up the bead right next to that one. So we've done this little zigzag, and it's making these last beads that we added a little more secure so they're not going to get loose. Now let's sew up 2 more rows, 1 and 2, and then we'll zigzag again. So we're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it, and then up the bead right next to that one. Then we'll sew up 2 more rows, 1 and 2. And now I feel very confident that my beads are not going to get loose when we connect our units together. So let's cut our thread. We'll hold on to the thread with our long nose pliers, and then try to get your scissors as close to the bead as possible without cutting the bead, and just snip off the thread. Now you have completed your number 3 unit. We only need 5 of these, so go ahead and do this 4 more times, and I will see you in a sec. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.